Welcome forward here with Consciously Creating Circumstances with George Winslow Plummer. We're entering into Chapter 8 now, entitled Bread Upon the Waters. When you personally begin to study the use of thought forms and begin to make them part of your mental equipment, shaping circumstances by them consciously, you will have taken a tremendous step forward, perhaps the most significant single step forward that you will ever take. You will then have begun to take the first steps in the kindergarten of conscious creation. You will naturally stumble and fall, cry a bit, but then you will try again and sooner or later accomplish the first steps. I promise you, my friend, that few things on earth equal the joy you will get from learning that first lesson. When you know that this marvelous new power is yours, you will sing for joy. You will then know that all things in heaven and earth are yours to command, that yourself can solve your own problems, be that what they may, that you have within yourself the seeds of your own success. This may sound exaggerated if you have not learned the first lesson. Yet I know, personally, scores of men and women of only average mental equipment who have learned this lesson. Once gained, it can never be lost, no matter how slowly or with what difficulty the further lessons are mastered. And the very fact that you are reading these words and thinking about these mysteries, for they are mysteries, demonstrates that you personally are marching in the vanguard of evolution, because very few people know about the power of thought forms. Nature wastes nothing. If you had not earned the right to know about thought forms, you would not hear of them. If your past had not brought you to the point where you could accept this great power and use it, you would not be told about it. The very thought and the very fact that you know about this throbbing dynamo waiting for you to throw the switch is proof that you are entitled to use its power. Whether you use it is, of course, entirely up to you. Quote, "Many are called, but few are chosen." End of quote. That might be better read, quote, "Many are called, but few choose." End of quote. I do not ask you whether you want this power or urge you to take it. In fact, I warn you that the use of this power for evil ends will hurt you badly. Do not hesitate to use thought forms because of fear that your method will be wrong. That will not hurt you. You simply will not get results in that case, and no harm is done. But be sure that your thought forms do not intend to harm any other person, because that will inevitably react on your unpleasantly, as well as you shall discover later on. Here is the inner significance of, quote, "casting your bread upon the waters," end of quote. After many days it shall come back unto you. The bread is your thought form. The waters are infinite oceans of subjective mind containing all power to transform that thought form into actual earthly conditions. That is how you consciously create circumstances. And if you would ask just how to begin to use this vast power, what kind of thought form is fashioned first, I would suggest this. Immediately set to work to clean out your heart any bitter, destructive, unkind, and uncharitable feelings. You cannot build a new house with rubbish from the old one cluttering up the lot. When you are satisfied that you have honestly done that, begin to build up an image of yourself as a conscious agent of the universal mind, receiving inspiration from the source of all things to aid you and others in making life more worth living. Some find it helpful in forming a picture of this kind to imagine themselves receiving floods of light and power from the sun, and this is a good method, for the sun blesses us with much besides daylight and warmth. But I shall not go into particulars about the details of this basic thought form of yours. If I did, it would be mine, not yours. Meditate on the idea. Let it mature in your own mind. And when you're satisfied with it, adopt it definitely and see it already done. Add to it from time to time if additional details occur to you. Concentrate on it whenever you can. The important point is your realization of yourself as an instrument of universal mind. A feeble instrument now, perhaps, but one that can build itself into a bigger, finer person of surveying your possibilities and then consciously developing them as you will be instructed. Work first on your basic thought form. Never mind that specific want in your life that needs to be filled. That will be taken care of more quickly if you first make sure of your general alignment with nature's constructive forces. In passing, let us clear up one point. We began this study by saying the successful people have access to something that failures do not know about. Now we are talking about thought forms. Does that mean that all successful people use thought forms? By no means. Or rather, they do not all use them consciously. But even if they were used unconsciously, they have some power. Electrical engineers know that a current of electricity flowing through one wire will induce a current in a wire laid alongside it, even though the second wire is not connected with it or to any battery. The effect is slight and as nothing compared with the current in the first wire, but it exists. In a similar way, a strong image of a desire in one's objective mind will have some effect on one's subjective mind, even though it is not consciously impressed on it as a thought form. The results will be minor compared with the results of consciously stamped the thought form. It is this unconscious activity, small it is, that has enabled many people to achieve success because they knew what they wanted and they wanted it vigorously. Theodore Roosevelt had a bold vision of a canal across the Isthmus of Panama. French engineers had failed to build it after the expenditure of millions. Roosevelt knew the idea was good. It was unselfish. It meant far-reaching good for his country. So he helped the idea firmly in mind against considerable opposition. The canal was dug, and America has blessed him ever since. Napoleon once exclaimed, when asked about certain circumstances, quote, "Circumstances? I make circumstances," end of quote. So can you. But you can avoid his tragic personal destiny by being constructive. Deaf Beethoven never heard his latter marvelous symphonies, but who doubts that his more sensitized inner ear was attuned to symphonies that few of us could ever hope to hear? He so strongly desired to bring at least a part of them over to us that we of later years reverie his memory. The elders got an idea for building bridges from watching spiders. No one had ever had it before, but the idea came so strong with him that he finally took objective shape in the Brooklyn Bridge. That elder was Roebling. I doubt whether any of these successful men had any conception of a thought form as such. Yet they accomplished great things through the mere inductive effort of their strong desires, plus, of course, native ability. They use their thought forms unconsciously. Anyone with average ability who uses thought forms consciously can work wonders as remarkable in his life as did these great ones with their superior natural ability who used thought forms unconsciously. No pleasure is comparable to the standing upon the vintage ground of truth, quote unquote, asserted Francis Bacon. And the beginner in using thought forms has not long to wait before he appreciates the significance of this claim by one of the greatest minds of all ages. Thus concludes Chapter 8. Next chapter is entitled Entering the Kingdom.